Yes, I had a resident reach out to me about his neighbor who was dividing up her basement and renting rooms to people. They said they could tell that the work vehicles had out of state plates. They apparently weren't allowed to go upstairs, and the kitchen facility was outside under the deck. So if they wanted to make breakfast in December, they were cooking outside under the deck. Um, I was appalled that that was actually happening in Darden Prairie. Some residents tonight are supposed to come to talk about it. I haven't been in the residence. I've seen pictures of it the outside, and looks totally normal, but you can't tell. Like, one of the residents has actually been in the basement and said it is parceled out, that there are rooms to rent, and he said he I asked him if he ever tried to talk to the people that were renting, and he said he tried, but they couldn't really communicate with him. So I would like to propose working on something to be able to prohibit this, because certainly she doesn't have a permit to have multi-family renting of in her basement. And it becomes a problem too, because I said to him, I'm surprised that parking is not an issue, because a lot of times when you talk to residents who have maybe several families living in a particular resident, there's a problem with parking. And she's like, oh no, parking's definitely a problem because there's all these vehicles. So um, anyhow, and I couldn't find the address when I searched for it to see if it was one of these places here. So I don't know how she finds renters to go in there, but apparently this certainly is something that's happening, and it's been going on for some time. I would say at least a year. They can give us more information when they come, but um, anyhow, so I'm hoping that we can put together something to help these residents out, because even the person renting to those people, that's a terrible way to have to earn money doing something that to people like that. I just think it's terrible. Um, so anyhow, yeah, I don't know. I was wondering if John knew of any, if other cities had similar problems or issues with something like this, and if there's been something put in place. I mean, I know even amongst our subdivision, we talked about short-term leases, and I think everybody's aware of the fiasco with downtown St. Louis with their short-term leases, and they, I think, put something in place to help manage that. But I didn't know if other cities have done something to help prohibit this activity. Because he also said, he's like, my video doorbell's picking up strange people like walking because they have to come and go the sliding back door. They can't, again, they're not allowed upstairs, so they have to do everything downstairs in the basement. Yeah, she said that the license plates are always out of state and they change. So I don't know how long term the resident or the person is staying in her basement. It might even be more of a, like a short term, less than 6 months or okay. Okay. Then I imagine they are mostly then long term, possibly.
Side to this is too, we have a home in Lewis and Clark that she is renting out her basement. And I've had numerous complaints from the neighbors for people coming and going and that kind of thing. So I know it's not just one house in the city. I would bet there are many houses in this city. But the other issue is too, um, we have an Airbnb that advertises that is in this city that I don't believe is licensed. And I don't remember, but several years back, I remember hearing the board talk about Airbnbs and, I don't think the discussion was that we wanted them in residential neighborhoods. So this RBA is sort of twofold. It's that we need to have something in place for this sort of um, business also, and then we need help for the HOAs and the residents who are having these issues in their neighborhoods that they should not have to deal with in a residential neighborhood. And I know the definition of single family is broadened, which is fine, but what I found under it is common misunderstanding. Some may think a single family dwelling can include multiple families. However, it is specifically designed for one family. And so one family would not mean someone leasing or renting out another portion of their home to someone else. So I think we need to really look at this and take action on it before we start finding more and more of these within the city and we have a bigger problem than we already have. So
Sounds like, I guess, look at direction from the steps could be, sounds like, one, we have it a couple of meetings, and then two, uh, type of, so in order to do that, I think we staff or this direction.
Yeah, I think we definitely need an ordinance to not for people to not be allowed to do this. That's not what these single family homes are for. And, it's disruptive in a neighborhood. So um, I think our residents deserve our attention to the matter as much as we can give it. And, I think we need to come up with something that will allow the city to be effective. Occupancy permit is one thing, but like we discussed earlier, this lady hasn't sold her house. She hasn't left her house. So how can we do an occupancy inspection? So, that our hands are tied there. We can't go in and inspect it saying, but um, yeah.
But if there is there has been, based on what the previous inspection was, uh, that threshold defined, how is the threshold? That's something that would sort of, the probable cause for changing occupancy, building, no matter how strict or loose the.
And I appreciate you bringing that up because while I agree and support legislation on this, I think the public needs to understand the enforceability of it is very, very difficult. Calling and complaining and saying, I think my neighbor's got people renting out of their bedroom doesn't give us any evidence to go to court or to get a warrant, as you referenced. And so it can be very frustrating because we have rules on the book, but we have a very difficult time trying to enforce them because we need proof. Now, if they're advertising on VRBO that they're renting out and we can snapshot those, that's great, perfect, that would work. But the neighbor seeing activity that they think suggests that is not enough to really document that. my understanding that was like several years ago. And so it's not something I can use right now. And I think the owner has gotten wise to letting people in her home and is now not doing that because she knows that, there's complaints and people are watching her and that she's not following the rule. My experience in this is that when you have these kinds of rules in the code, rule followers will follow them. So you'll send them a notice and you'll say, you can't do that. They'll be like, okay. Non-rule followers they're not going to care. They're not going to respond to your letters, and we're going to need to have proof in order to take them to court. So just so we set the expectation for everybody and an understanding of what might be involved in it, I think is important. I'd ask John again to respond on that because I don't know our suspicion that they've been doing, drywall's being delivered and we've seen all this activity, but they don't have a building permit. I don't know that we can gain access or force an inspection. I'm not certain on that.
Well, but we also have in the occupancy, I believe we have square footage and how many people can be per square foot, do we not? So we can also go with that. I'm just saying, I think the city needs to try to do something. No, maybe not everybody will cooperate, but um, we need to try to do something to help avoid more of these situations if we can do that. And, you know, well, then let's do something. So, okay. Well, that's the other thing. You know, I think we need to put an ordinance out there that you can in certain properties you cannot have an Airbnb, you know? Okay. Okay. Well, I don't care what you call it. Well, then let's get going because okay, that's fine. You know,
Would agree that is the next step. Any objections to?
Well, the only thing that worries me that I'm gonna be able to, I don't know this particular, I don't think that's staying there for, I know that there's certainly, and they can tell us that, but it worries me that we don't have any action plan over 30 days. Those room, that, I'm particularly talking about that,
Month to month rentals to be
I guess,
month to month or
week to week.
yeah.
Under the deck wouldn't qualify, right? Outside, under the deck.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
stuff is the a
Well, let me ask you a question. Like the Samsung 10, the reason I bring that up because I think the user sometimes Apple devices can. The reason I suggest this, that's the only reason I suggest it. This is your.
Well, I would let the key
Yeah, I'm just,
manager determine
yeah.
the um. Are there any further questions or discussion? Given the options for there any action that is taken, or we like one of these now, or regardless of the device. Whatever the device is. I wasn't trying to set it up, but again, you always say the quiet part out loud. I also want to ask too, just for conversation, downloading edition. Cybersecurity. Policy. And if my kids got a hold of it. Regardless of the device. Any further questions or discussion? As far as selection goes, Kathy Rose. One input from the board at this point.
It was our understanding from a previous meeting that the board wanted to consider various options. So Rose put together, you know, three options for the board's consideration, and then we just need direction from the board on how they want to proceed. All of these fit within the budgeted funds for this project.
Is there a reason that, we have to have, we call it a baseline, but do you want to have, everybody has the same, that's, I think that would work. The same. Absolutely. So we're gonna need to pick one. So option A is the Apple Wi-Fi iPad. Show of hands. Well, see, we also don't have all.
He's not gonna give you an input anyway.
Use it anyway. All right, I'm gonna go. All right, so we'll do a quick vote. Show of hands. Who wants option A is the Apple Wi-Fi iPad?
Well,
Cheapest.
I would say,
Yeah, I think Rose
Oh, yeah,
could just tell us.
well, I just asked, and
Okay.
city administrator indicated that she was looking for input from the board.
oh,
So, yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree with that, if that's, so with option A, I guess let's have some discussion on A. Alderman Johnson just indicated that A has, more options with half the price from some of the other ones. So that option, are there any, motions? I'm open. I'm not trying to dictate here from the board, but, motion by Alderman Johnson for option A, second by Alderman Gittemeyer. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. So thank you so much for the research on this. ICE's about it, giving us very detailed and presentation, so we. Okay. What's the timeline you think it would take? Capacities. I'm gonna set up and then. Great. All right. Thank you so much. Moving on to number 3 is a resolution for the mayor-appointed Veterans Liaison for a future Veterans Recognition Program. That's mine, my RVA. The board has heard me discuss, likewise approve funding in the budget this coming year to implement what is going to be a new veteran recognition program for our city. One of the things that, we're sort of short on in that is trying to identify the veterans in our city, recognize it. So that's legwork in itself, and time, it takes effort, commitment to the, to city and to the veterans, really pull that together and organize it. So with that, I spoke with Kathy, the city administrator, and discussed options on that, and ultimately determined that a veteran liaison appointment would be suitable for that. And I'd like to thank someone who volunteered. He's on our planning and zoning commission, Mr. Craig Stankovich. Saying that right? I always feel like, okay, yeah. Doesn't matter how many times I say it. So. But Craig is an Army veteran who served our country proudly in Vietnam. He still serves the city today in his capacity as planning and zoning. And additionally, he's served the community in a broader capacity to support veterans as one of the founding members of the St. Charles County Veterans Museum. He continues to serve in many capacities, and so I am proud to appoint Mr. Stankovich as our veteran liaison, Garden Prairie, and I want to thank him for his continued support, helping move this program forward. And in this capacity, it's going to be advisory in nature, and it's an appointment. But how did the language go, Kathy? Appointments just can't happen. There's all strange dynamics around it.
Yeah, so he's appointed to be a liaison to the commission. He has no authority, spending authority or decision-making authority, but he's advisory in nature.
So I want to thank Stankovich for his consideration and volunteering for this, and again raising his hand. Okay. Moving on to the next item is our travel policy, and I put that forward. There has been some confusion around the travel policy. Ultimately, and having looked at it recently, it is sparse with guidance. So something that I'm working on right now with the staff and mayor, it's under my position to pull this policy together in advance, which is to create clarity in the travel policy. So with that, this is the draft we have right now, and I'm going to hand this out to the board. If any other board members have any additional thoughts that they'd like to add to this, feel free to reach out to me and have a discussion. But I wanted to first kind of present what we have now versus trying to create a little bit more structure around the policies. But right now, it's currently travel is authorized. Travel or reimbursement is for authorized travel. And that's something that it's not, it's kind of a generic couple of paragraphs. So I want to open this up to the board, see if there's any questions or considerations for that. And again, even if not today, happy to have a discussion about it. Any other recommendations related?
can maybe work
Absolutely.
on it. Company is not accountable. That's a big difference. Not accountable. They, whether it's been, yeah, I would like when people come back from the family goes here. I would really like to have some that mechanism actionable. And when you know, say Brian, yeah, and learned about Graham. So that's the kind of value.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Welcome your seasoned eye on this document. And eye seasoned eyes, I guess. To take a look and offer some feedback and thoughts on how we can. I think that it's one of those things where once you actually look into it, depth, it's just something that was probably transposed from wherever we had, whatever cities we adopted way back when this overlaid on and the city would do and grow. I think at the right time happened that a couple things that have come up recently and look to the existing verbiage. It brings some clarity for future travel for everybody. That's Alderman staff included. Thank you, Alderman. Any other thoughts or considerations on this?
I have a question. Our city mayor.
So staff currently has a form they use to request attendance at a seminar or conference. So I would see having something similar that the mayor would authorize for the elected officials.
Travel. That some cities, from what I've heard, have there with set policy where outside of this standard, like St. Charles County Municipal League, there could be one trip a year that's standard, and then all the other ones are by exception, something to that effect. So that's something that we'll look into a little bit, but welcome any thoughts you have as far as that goes. Like I said, I don't want to be the arbitrator as the mayor for if you as an alderman want to go to a conference and say, you know, let's say you're an IT person and there's like IT in city government and it's a full conference and that's kind of your bailiwick, you know, to go to it, by all means, but kind of limiting what the taxpayers are paying. Not every month, every alderman's going. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, no.
So what
makes sense. Last question.
I mean, at this point, yeah, I think something before the next meeting would be good, you know, and we could add to it and detract and bring for a discussion and probably a week or so of getting it back to us. And before, I guess, the Wednesday close of business, I think we.
Oh, we have zoning and then it's
Second meeting, what's
yeah. Yeah, you're right.
first
No,
meeting,
it's
so it's a
next
second meeting
Wednesday.
in March. Yeah. So is a week enough time for everybody? Okay, thank you. Any further discussion or questions?
Currently, our policy reads that reimbursable travel expenses are limited to those expenses authorized for official city business. So that suggests a pre-authorization for travel conference. And I think what has been presented in the handout is just that. Staff has to do that. And I think the recommendation is that the elected officials would do that as well. So in advance of a conference or travel. Well, Brandy, which I haven't had a chance to introduce yet, and I sort of batted around that whole concept of, putting in a time, oh, you have to submit 30 days in advance or what have you. I think that's up to the board to determine really, because often conferences have early bird rates, and then they have the next tier rates, and then they have the, oh, well, gosh, you're late, you're going to pay what you would pay if you went in at the door. Now, in fairness, somebody may not find out about a conference until the last minute, and the city may agree that this is good for the city for someone to attend and want to authorize that. So, I don't know that having a limit necessarily serves our purposes if it sort of slaps somebody's hands from being able to go to something last minute, if the mayor would in fact support it and say, oh yeah, that's a great idea, let's jump on that, let's go, or yeah, please go attend on behalf of the city.
Louis, other cities around say that the mayoral policy established, it's mayor can say, well, outside of the standard battery of example, talk about Ryan going to the National League annual conference every month for the National League of Cities. Has to be a top line snap somewhere. That what's for good city I'm going to go to. So again, it's how many.
Well, and I think the conferences are published in plenty of time um, to do it and to get it. But my recommendation would be that all hotel reservations and conference reservations be made through either the city clerk or the executive assistant, because they can get the lower rates and they also get the tax exempt, um, rather than us just making it on our own, or and not getting the tax exempt or getting the lower conference rate. So I think those things should have to be done through the city. And that way we know that we're getting the lowest rate. And usually, you're doing it at a hotel that's right there. But you have to do them early or the hotels are booked up. So, um, I just think it's using the money wisely and smartly, and not um, wasting the city's money.
So going to city is something that, and the city clerk would put $1,000 travel. Probably book, but there was but if you went south side of the city, taxes on paid, you're asking I don't think there's an expectation. Some aldermen have elected to go. How would you describe national news? Case where I have one handle, but I believe that I guess is that no expectation we think something that is done out of in their own. Talking about other cities which I think have snaps, not just going city business. Some are, you know, that makes sense. Giving aldermen and I think it's giving aldermen, and the thing is too, this is just the aldermen. This policy cuts across city staff as well. One of the things that Kathy and I have talked about, and we urged the staff to do, and conference related to their specific help them grow and understand what's out. Example, IT manager to sit here and focus in on how to manage the IT every day, not about the economy. You know, IT government, that'd be great, right? For her to go out to that, because she's gonna be able to go and see what other different. And the same goes back. I know that Parks and Rec director, she's going to help her got better, but that's the whole idea behind it. 20 years is encouraged, and that beyond that, it's got to keep level of guys such improvement. Okay, anything else, Alderman Walker? Any other discussion on this? Or otherwise, I would just request the board offer additional feedback before next. That's it. So we're going to the last item we have on the agenda with questions or questions about that. Okay, that takes us on to staff communications. City attorney, anything? Okay, city engineer, any other for the board? Nothing. Okay, city administrator.
Thank you. Well, first I did want to introduce Brandy Kidd. She is the new executive assistant for the city. Brandy comes to us with previous municipal as well as St. Charles County Police Department experience. And we are excited to have her on board. She has already hit the ground running, as seeing as she started Monday, and she already had drafted some travel policy suggestions for us. So excited to have her on board. I wanted to update the board and our citizens that Rose and I are currently working on educational materials to help residents better understand the use tax that will appear on the April 7th ballot. Our goal is to make sure voters have clear factual information about what the tax is, why it's being proposed, and how it impacts the city. This is a critical financial initiative for Dardenne Prairie. The use tax helps ensure that purchases made online or from out-of-state vendors are taxed the same as purchases made locally. Without it, we're losing revenue from internet retail sales. Adoption of the use tax would help the city preserve the level of services residents expect, particularly in areas such as police services and street maintenance, including resources needed for snow removal and maintaining our road infrastructure, which are two very hot topics in Dardenne Prairie right now. Over the next several weeks, we will continue sharing educational information through our website, social media, and other communication channels so residents understand the measure before the April election, and we'll be encouraging everyone to go out and vote. Our annual Mission Clean Stream event will take place on Saturday, April 11th. Volunteers need to check in at City Hall starting at 8:30 a.m. and cleanup begins at 9. This regional event has been going on for more than 20 years and helps remove trash and debris from our local waterways. We appreciate the continued support from Greenway Network, which provides supplies and volunteer t-shirts. Residents, families, and community groups are encouraged to participate. And just a note, you do need to be 6 or older to help us clean up trash out of our waterways. Registration information is available on the city's website and social media with signups open through March 24th. This is a registration event. Just a reminder that there will be a joint session with Planning and Zoning on March 26th at 6 p.m. to discuss the multifamily moratorium. I want to give special recognition to Chairman Waldridge. He has invested a lot of time. He's going to kill me. A lot of time working on reviewing our zoning code, comprehensive plan, and current and future land use maps. He's been a tremendous help in working with the commission and with staff trying to move forward and we'll be ready for discussion on March 26th. And to the point of conferences, Nicole attended the Missouri Parks and Recreation Association conference last week. This conference brings together parks and recreational professionals from across the state to share ideas and learn about new trends in parks programming, maintenance, and community engagement. She participated in several sessions focused on park planning, recreation programming, and ways communities are improving their park spaces to better serve residents. A number of the discussions tied directly into projects we're working on in Darden Prairie, particularly the Barrett Haven Park Enhancement Project, where we're looking at ways to expand amenities and make the park even more of a community destination in association with the community college's new Field to Table Institute Cafe and Market. Attending conferences, as we discussed, like MPRA, is a great way for staff to bring back new ideas and stay connected to best practices in the parks and recreation field. That's it for me.
The regular meeting?
Yeah.
That I will also hold my thoughts, add a tiny kid. Randy, excited to have you on. Alderman Wilson, second by Alderman Gittemeyer. All in favor? Opposed?